This is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Haralambous.
Coming up on this week's programme, the government keeps telling us it's working to reduce sky-high electricity bills. But how honest is it being?
We don't seem to be capable to plan. It's not lack of knowledge. We just don't do it. We keep talking about it and going around in circle and pondering over small issues. The government is raking millions of euros out of taxes on electricity. The electricity price we pay, 1/3 of it, 35% of it, is taxes. The average in Europe is 23%. In Greece is 15%. Here we have 35%, one of the highest taxes on electricity in Europe.
After April 2nd, you may need an ETA or Electronic Travel Authorisation to enter the United Kingdom.
It's for eligible European visitors to apply for now, and they will need it for travel from the 2nd of April 2025.
We heard this week that our liquefied natural gas import project at Vassiliko is going to need another 200 million euros for pending works. It's something that I've been talking to Charles Elinas, who's an energy expert, about for many years. Charles, every time we talk, it seems the price goes up. What's this lot for?
Well, there was a hearing at the Parliament where they outlined what it includes. Obviously, they need to complete the jetty. As you know, the jetty is half finished. It needs to be finished. The land facilities, the gasification and handling of the gas facilities are not progressed at all. That needs to be done. And in addition to that, the project is going to last longer than we expected. And if you remember, the last estimate was that it should have finished last year. And now it looks unlikely that it will finish this year, probably sometime next year if things work out. And we can discuss that later. So the additional cost of funding that, those extra 2 years needs to come into it. And obviously, the retention of a new project manager, the DIFA is in the process of retaining a new project manager. From what I hear, this time round they are funding, they have found a proper company to help them, which would be a good appointment for the project. And the ongoing cost of the arbitration in London. The lawyers in London are very expensive. The arbitration is still carrying on, and the way it's carrying on is unlikely to finish by next year. It will take at least 2 more years before it finishes. So all of these costs come together to bring the cost up. I think the 200 million it may be a bit over the top, but I advise to be conservative because the ministry or a DIFA going back to government to get more money again sometime in the future is going to be that much more difficult. So it's best to give it one shot. And 200 million hopefully will be more than enough to complete the project. But, I have no confidence, Rosie. So far we have been handling it so badly. I'm not totally confident that that will improve massively, except for the appointment of the new project manager, who is much more competent than previously.
So we have looked into the background, hopefully, of this new manager, and you think that he can get the job done. The point is, this was, as you said, supposed to finish years ago, and
Yes.
Even if we've asked for more than we need, I have a suspicious feeling that the price is just going to go on escalating the longer it goes on.
Well, that's the problem. If they don't, the minister was very optimistic. He went to Parliament and he said that with this money and what they're doing now at the ministry, the project will be finished by the end of this year. Well, I can tell you that's highly unlikely. We have 10 months to the end of the year. The project manager hasn't been appointed yet. They haven't gone in. They haven't gone out for to retain a contractor to build the land facilities, and the contract for the jetty is yet to be awarded. So I just cannot see why the minister is being so optimistic, and he has always been optimistic, and that doesn't help in the sense that if you don't give realistic dates and then you don't achieve them, people lose confidence in what you say. So for my knowledge of the project and my knowledge of projects like this, I don't believe it's going to be ready before sometime well into next year, if everything works out. And you already doubt whether that is going to work out. I mean, it remains to be seen.
Charles, even if all of this does work out, the floating regasification unit, that ship, is still in Malaysia, isn't it? When is that going to arrive? I know it's no point in it arriving until the jet is ready, but how long is it going to take to get here once all of that's been done? They haven't got the parts yet, have they?
No, apparently they need some parts, and they said at the parliamentary hearing that it's going to cost €7 million to obtain the parts to complete the project. But for me, that's a minor worry. It will happen, and it will be done well within the time I expect the project will need to finish. So if the rest of the project isn't going to be ready until well into next year, Prometheus, the FSRU, it will be ready before that, one way or another. So staying in Malaysia is the right thing to do because you have nowhere else to put it, I'm afraid. And can I mention another factor here that they haven't allowed for?
Which is?
They have allowed for the legal costs of the arbitration. But the arbitration is going to end at some stage. And I'm quite worried that it will cost us additional money in the sense that we will lose the arbitration. We have to pay additional money. We haven't allowed for any eventuality. I suppose it's not easy for the government to admit that it may lose money on the arbitration, but somewhere that money has to be allowed for.
Do we have any idea, even on a sort of positive spin, how much over budget? What was it originally budgeted for, this whole thing?
Well, in the articles that I've seen, and of course, based on the original budget when they went out for bidding, the total cost was going to be for the construction element, for completion of construction and start of operations. It was going to cost €289 million. Now, based on the money they spent so far, and additional cost for the FSRU and the 200 million, we're talking about close to €500 million.
So it's doubled pretty well. And the point is, we did get some EU money, or we're supposed to. Are we going to still get that EU funding with all of these, botches?
So I don't know what is happening with the EU. If the project finishes more or less as it was originally planned, the EU probably will pay the money. But as you know, the EU is also investigating corruption during the award of the project. And we haven't heard anything new about the outcome of that investigation. The question is that what happens if the EU finds that there was corruption, and there are major question marks about the way the project has been handled so far. So will the EU penalize us? I have no idea. We don't hear anymore about what is happening with the EU. And I think for the sake of transparency, we should hear about it. What is happening? I mean, the referral to the EU was at the beginning of last year. It's a year later, and we have no idea what is happening there and how the EU is going to handle it. I think Cypriots it's owed to them, given the debacle so far with the project, to be transparent and tell people what is going on.
Well, it would prepare us for the bad news that almost certainly is coming if we look at the history of this event. Now, let me also, while I've got you, ask you about power from renewables, because our energy minister has been in the news again this week. We all know that absolutely thousands of megawatt hours of power generated from renewables gets discarded through containment because the grid can't handle it. And now the ministry is saying that we're going to get battery storage. Is that another of these things that is optimistic? We've been hearing about it for months.
Well, it's essential to do it, first of all, and it's been done extremely late. The problem with renewables is that the grid is antiquated, it's too old, and it needs to be extended, and we need battery storage to store excess electricity that is generated during the day when the sun is up, and is needed during the night when the sun is down. So we need all of these things. Back in 2020, 2021, when we were putting together our plan for resilience and recovery that the EU requested and the EU is funding, we included in that plan batteries and grid upgrading, and the money was allocated to that. So basically, we knew about this in 2021. We allocated the money. We knew what needed to be done. We're now in 2035, and we're talking as if we just suddenly discovered this. The problem is that we lack proper planning. We do things far too late, much later than what would have been advisable. And now the greatest problem for me is that we have been successful in convincing thousands of people to put PV installations on their rooftops to see the benefit.
Yeah, but most of them are losing
money,
their...
And the electricity they produce sometimes is being cut off because of this problem of lack of batteries.
Precisely. So a lot of people have put photovoltaics on their roofs. They thought they would be saving on their electricity bills, but as soon as the grid can't take it, their photovoltaic input doesn't count. So they're still paying big electricity bills.
And of course, I'm not so sure I think they still benefit, but a lot less than they expected. The problem, though, is lack of confidence again, lack of belief in the system. The system convinced them to invest in this. Many more people want to do the same. This is a popular system, photovoltaics on rooftops. And yet, because we haven't done the renewal of the grid system, we haven't done the batteries, they now have problems, and people lose confidence. I mean, that one area where we had a success, we are now going to lose it because people lose confidence in this whole system. We need to do things and do them at the right time. It's not that we don't know what needs to be done. We know what needs to be done.
It's a lack of
about it for a long time.
It's a lack of planning, Charles, isn't it? A lack of proper planning, because the times I've spoken to the Minister for Energy, and yes, you're right, he's always upbeat. He says he knows that the grid needs to be brought up to standard. Now, I presume that buying batteries to, if you like, extend the capacity of the grid is a bit of a sticking plaster solution. It will help for the moment, but the bottom line is we need to spend, I presume, billions on upgrading the grid itself, don't we?
Well, it's not billions, but we need to spend the money. Yes, it's doable. I mean, as I said, the money was allocated to this out of the Recovery and Resilience Fund. We just and we assess what needs to be done. We just haven't planned for it. We haven't done it, and now at the last moment we're rushing to do it. There is a lot of resistance also by those who have big renewable installations, because they're making a huge amount of money out of renewables, and they want to get control over the batteries as well. The minister should stick to his guns and install the battery system under the control of an organization, maybe AC, to make sure that it's for the benefit of the of the people in general, and especially of the households who have installed rooftop solar.
Well, I did read that the transmission system operator, the TSO, is allowed, I think, or there's a bill before Parliament to allow them to possess and exploit energy storage systems.
I hope so. It's the right organization.
But meanwhile, we have the Association of Renewable Energy Enterprises. Now, they're the people who are pocketing an awful lot of profit at the moment, I think.
Huge amount of profit. No, it's not you think. It's a huge amount of profit. Installing these installations is costing them 5 to 6 cents per kilowatt hour. They are charging it at 20 plus. Huge profits.
And yet they have the nerve to come out and say that the storage schemes are tailored to favour the Electricity Authority of Cyprus. What's that all about?
It favours the Electricity Authority in their eyes because it's forcing them to, with the system that is being discussed, it's forcing them to sell their electricity to EAC. And EAC then distributes electricity. If that happens, their prices will go down dramatically, and they don't like that. They want to carry on making huge amounts of profits, which is unbalanced. It should have been, again, it's something that we have known about it for a long time. In the previous government, the Minister of Finance did say that he put together a team to investigate the super profits, and he was going to take action. He went, and a new government has come, and action has not been taken. And 3 years later, there is no action. Nothing. We have heard nothing about this committee and what it has done. No action has been taken. These people are still making a huge amount of money at the expense of the rest of us. So the whole system. Wherever you turn, wherever you put your fingers, you find problems. There is not much that you can be proud of or happy about, apart from the fact that I said before, the adoption of PV on rooftops, that was successful, but that is also suffering now because of lack of storage. We don't seem to be capable to plan. It's not lack of knowledge. We just don't do it. We keep talking about it and going around in circle and pondering over small issues.
No, and is it even feasible? I mean, my first thought is these people who've been making all this money at everybody else's expense for how many years now, and apart from the fact that they're putting up huge solar fields, if you like, to carry on maximising their profits, destroying our environment in the process, why can't we put a windfall tax on the profits they've been making and use that to buy the batteries we need to extend the grid? Because most people who put photovoltaics on their roofs can't afford, I think, to add batteries to their own private system. They're too expensive.
We should do exactly what you say. We should recover the super profits and go as far back as possible. I mean, recover them not just this year, but retrospectively as far as the law allows, and use that money to improve our systems. In addition to that, the other point I want to raise is that the government is raking millions of euros out of taxes on electricity. The electricity price we pay, 1/3 of it, 35% of it, is taxes. The average in Europe is 23%. In Greece is 15%. Here we have 35%, one of the highest taxes on electricity in Europe.
How do we justify that?
The government has just announced that last year it made a 4.5 billion surplus. How? I mean, this is, for me, is totally unjustifiable. We tax people who are really suffering because of the high cost of electricity. We charge them one of the highest taxes in Europe. We make surplus, and we are proud of our surplus, while our people are suffering. If we were to reduce the 35% to 15% like Greece, the price of electricity will go immediately down by 8 cents. Just that factor alone will bring the price down by 8 cents. I keep talking about it, and I see nothing being done, and I don't see anybody showing any interest in that. People pay, they don't complain. If they don't complain, if they don't get out in the streets and complain, the government won't do anything about it. It's happy to rake in a lot of taxes and see the benefit of good ratings from the ratings company like Standard & Poor's and the rest. But the people are suffering, and we should mind that, because another thing that I discovered recently is that in accordance with the definition of energy poor, what is energy poor in Europe, 50% of Cypriots are energy poor. It's inexcusable, absolutely inexcusable.
It certainly is. Charles, I think we'll wrap it up there, and I'm sure the next time we talk...
Rosie, can I just mention a positive thing? Because
if there is one, go ahead.
There is one. If we do complete this LNG terminal by the end of next year, sometime next year, we will see major benefits. A lot of LNG is coming into the market. The prices will come down after the end of next year substantially. And if we are able to replace oil by LNG in generating electricity, that factor alone can bring prices down by 40%. So despite the delays, despite the problems, despite the 200 million euros, if we do whatever we can to complete this project, we will certainly see a substantial benefit.
And I was about to say we'll leave it there, but I'm sure that the next time we talk, it will be about that great sea interconnector and where that's going. I don't think we can start that one now.
No, not now, no.
Charles, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Let's keep fingers crossed that really everybody gets their act together, because this is doable with the right sort of political will, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's doable. No question about it.
Thank you very much indeed. That's Charles Elinas from the Atlantic Council. He's an energy expert. Always a pleasure talking to you, Charles. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Rosie. Thank you.
This is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Haralambous.
The biggest achievement of Crime Stoppers has been the ability of the public to be able to give information about crime anonymously.
There's no way I could have kept prostituting without the drugs. There's no way I could have had my body used like a public toilet, because that's actually what prostitution is.
And then the fourth series I started 3 days after I'd won the Oscar, so the whole of the Monarch of the Glen experience was all interplatted with the Gosford Park Oscar experience.
I was working with Ronnie James Dio, and David was going to reform Whitesnake in 2003.
Cyprus was chosen because Cyprus is a stable, peaceful and secure place.
We have to really look closely. What are we doing with children? What are we doing with adolescents? And what are we doing with adults that can help them move into a more literate situation?
The ones that I'm proudest of are the ones that were true discoveries, where we found something we didn't know existed.
Travellers heading for the UK will very soon need to get a new Electronic Travel Permit, or ETA, because there's a new authorisation system in place. Now, does it apply to everybody? Well, to tell us all about it, it's welcome to this week's programme to the British Consul, Chloe McIntosh. Chloe, many thanks for joining me. Can you clarify who this applies to? Because I think it's not everyone, is it?
Hi, Rosie. Yeah, you're correct. It's not for everyone. It is for visitors to the UK who will be staying for less than 6 months, so those that do not need a visa. It's for eligible European visitors to apply for now, and they will need it for travel from the 2nd of April 2025.
Does this apply to British citizens, or only to those who perhaps don't have a valid passport?
So it applies for those who are not British citizens. So British and Irish citizens with a valid UK passport would be exempt from this. It's for other European nationals and non-European nationals to apply to travel to the UK.
But you do need a valid passport. The reason I'm asking is that I reached a certain age and thought there's no need to actually renew my British passport, which I've had ever since whenever, because I've got a Cypriot passport now, but I do need it, don't I?
Yes, so you do need a valid British passport to be exempt from it, and you also need your whichever passport you're applying for. So if you were to apply on your Cypriot passport, you would need that to be currently valid as well.
But if it is currently valid, I still need an ETA.
Yes.
Now, it's quite a palaver getting that online. I know because I've done it. In fact, I got my daughter-in-law to do it because I got completely lost. Is there any way of getting assistance, particularly for people who are not maybe as computer savvy as youngsters?
So to apply for the ETA, it is all online. There isn't a help feature on the system at the moment, but we are able to provide information through our usual lines of inquiry, either directly to HMPO, who are the Passport Inquiries Office, or us here in Nicosia, based at the VHC.
So if somebody really did have difficulty or no available daughter-in-law to help them, they could come to you and somebody would help guide them through it?
Yeah, we are able to guide people through the system. It would just be a direction. We're obviously not able to do it on anyone's behalf.
Okay, and is there somewhere a sort of list of who needs to do this, and people can check whether or not they do need a visa, or maybe can they still come in with a visa if they've got a Cypriot passport, for example?
If they're travelling and they hold a current visa for the UK, they do not need to apply for an ETA. But if they do not have a visa and they are going for less than 6 months, then they are required to get the ETA.
And do you know whether it's actually simpler to get a visa? How long is a visa current for? The ETA, I think, is 3 years, is it?
So the current ETAs are valid for 2 years or until your passport expires.
And a visa?
The visa is dependent on the circumstances of the person applying for the visa. It depends on whether it's a visit visa or a student visa or a work visa.
You mentioned students. Now, there are a lot of students from Cyprus studying in the UK. Are they impacted by this?
If they have a current visa for their study, they shouldn't be impacted by this.
But it's worth checking, presumably. And would it be better for them to get the 2-year ETA then?
I would say it's simpler to get the ETA to have it to cover you on the off chance that your visa, the date runs out or you're waiting for your renewal. But it's hard to say as they're two very different systems. Okay,
and I should say that actually, despite the difficulties that I had filling in the form, the application was agreed and I got a confirmation that it had been approved within 24 hours, which is a lot quicker, I think, than if you send off physically for either a new passport or a visa.
Yes, so it is a fairly quick turnaround. We estimate around 72 hours, but it can be turned around a lot quicker.
So people can find out more at gov.uk, I guess. Any other advice, Chloe, that you would offer to people who are particularly thinking of travelling in the next couple of months?
Well, I would say apply early. So you're able to apply now online for your ETA. It doesn't come into force until the 2nd of April, but get it plenty of time before you travel. Always go via gov.uk website when applying for it, as there are other websites at the moment that are charging more money for the visa itself. So go through all of our official channels to obtain your ETA.
Sound advice. Many thanks to our British consul in Nicosia, Chloe McIntosh. Chloe, thanks for your time.
No worries, thank you.
This is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Haralambous.
And let's finish with some good news. The Cyprus Dental Association has announced that it will be giving free oral checkups to mark World Oral Health Day. some of the first symptoms of general diseases of the body appear in the mouth, such as diabetes mellitus, certain cardiovascular diseases, as well as things like oral cancer. The treatment of these diseases could be easier and more effective if the first symptoms are diagnosed early during a visit to the dentist. So check with your dentist to see whether they're offering those free oral checkups. That's for World Oral Health Day on March the 20th. Well, that about wraps up this edition of the Cyprus News Digest. Many thanks for your company. Hope you'll join me next week. Till we meet again, take care and God bless. Bye-bye now.